I'm coming up on 9 years of running my business, Inner Wealth Global. And over the course of 9 years, there's been a lot of evolution. There's been a lot of growth. When I talk about growth, I'm not talking about business growth. I'm talking about a greater understanding of what the business delivers and the impact it has in people's lives. And there's times where marketing my business has been easier than others. And I've learned that there's one key and one necessity to be able to market your business effectively. And when you're able to do this, you'll have an easier time reaching your ideal clients. And when you can't, it's going to struggle. You're going to struggle. But when you can unlock and tap into this level of clarity, and we're going to get into the importance of clarity in the rest of the podcast. But when you can tap into this level of clarity, it makes everything much easier. And that lesson that I've learned is, if in a business, if you can't easily and simply articulate the problem that you solve for your ideal client in one simple sentence that's easy to state and that's easy to understand, then you're going to struggle to market. And if you struggle to market, you're going to struggle to sell. And if you struggle to sell, then you're going to struggle in your business, because marketing is the engine of sales, and sales is the engine of any business. And when you can't market, the whole thing starts to unravel. All right. And we've gone from season to season in our business. Sometimes it grows quickly because we understand the mission that's required, or the message that's clicking in that season. And there's times where that unlocks and something starts to fray, and it all just kind of like starts to unravel a little bit until we regain clarity. And then after we regain clarity, it starts to build again. All right. But that clarity comes from understanding that problem that we solve for our ideal client. Now, me and the team, every once in a while, get together, and we go back to the basics and the strategy session. And basically we start at clarity. What is the mission of Inner Wealth Global, and what is the problem that we solve for our ideal client? And what it is in this season, where we've done different things and we've solved different problems before. But in this season, Inner Wealth Global works with entrepreneurs to help them expand their life and their business and their circumstances in ways that do not cause them to have to sacrifice themselves or punish themselves. So simply put, we help them get into alignment with who they are and the purpose and the mission that they're here to serve. And when they do that, and the life that they're here to live, and when they do that, their life tends to flow a lot easier. And some people are fighting their design, and some people are fighting their purpose. Some people are out of alignment with who they are and why they put this meat suit on. And when that happens, life gets a lot more tense and a lot more strugglicious, right? But when entrepreneurs find us, and when we do the work, when we help them to the level that we know we can help them, then things become really fun for them, and really whole lot easier, a lot less strugglicious. So I'm going to talk about a couple times that we've been wildly successful with some clients, some ideal clients. I want to talk about Melanie. Melanie was running a wholesaling business, a real estate wholesaling business. And what that means is they find someone who's selling their house that doesn't know who to sell it to. They buy the house, or they get it under contract, and then they find a seller or a buyer, and they match the buyer and the seller, and then they get a cut of the sale. Very, very simple business model. It's very awesome. There's a lot of wholesalers in the world, and there's a lot of wholesalers that make a whole lot of money, and they all they've got to do is go and find these deals that are off market. They're typically not going to be available to general public, but they find off market deals, but they already know a bunch of sellers or a bunch of buyers that are looking for houses, and they match this seller who doesn't know where to find the buyers, and they match the seller and the buyer, and they get a cut of the sale. And it's an awesome business model. And I asked Melanie, I said, do you love wholesaling? And she said, no. Why do you wholesale? And she said, because it helps me fund my love of travel. And I said, tell me all about that. And she said, I love traveling. I love going on trips, and I plan, 1 week, 2 week excursions, and I go to cool places around the world like Patagonia and Base Camp and places all over. And she's South America and Europe and in Asia. And she says, sometimes I take somebody, 1 or 2 people with me, and, I'll plan the trip for all of us. And I asked a simple question. I said, why don't you take more people, raise your prices, and have them pay for your life and your business? Have them pay for your travel. And she said, do you really think that I could do that? And I said, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that love travel. Why not? Why not market and invite people that love travel? You put together this awesome adventure and take them with you, and you can profit from it, and it can both fund your travel and you can live the life of your dreams. And right now, Melanie's running 6 to 8 adventures throughout the course of the year. She takes 10, 12 people, and she's profiting, and she's literally rebuilt her life around her passion. And she's enjoying that aspect of life. But it took really understanding what she loved and how to profit from it. But my role in that was just to help her get really clear, and then start to I didn't build her business at all. I can't take credit for building her business. She built her business, and it's going to be a recurring theme. But I did help her get clear, and then start to help her remove the blocks that, these mental and emotional blocks that she had to embarking on this new adventure. There's Corey. And Corey was an acquisitions guy for a real estate investment company. And Corey didn't love acquisitions. He would go out, he's kind of like a wholesaler. He would go out and find these houses that couldn't be sold commercially, or couldn't be sold on the general market, on the MLS. If you're a real estate person, you know what that is, but couldn't be sold conventionally. So maybe it needed rehab. Maybe it was in really bad shape. It just wasn't in sales ready condition. But Corey would find someone who wanted to sell their house, make them a cash offer, and then take it back and deliver it to the real estate investment company. And the real estate investment company would refurbish it, rehab it, sell it to a wholesaler or sell it to a buyer, something. But anyway, Corey would make a split from that. And Corey didn't love that. But in a conversation, I said, Corey, what do you love? What do you love? And he said, I love photography. And I said, why don't we start a photography business? And he said, well, I already do some photography on the side. I said, well, get a calendar. Let's get a calendar, and let's start inviting people to do photography with you. And a couple years later, here we are. That was back in, I think, 2018. And years later, in the St. Louis metropolitan area, Corey is one of the most well-known photographers in the area. Very esteemed, very accomplished, very successful. And people look up to Corey in the photography space. And I never built his business. All I helped him do was get really clear about what he really wanted to do and the life that he wanted to live, and then help remove the blocks that he had in his mind and his mental and emotional blocks, and start to remove those and help work with him to eliminate those. And when he moved forward, it worked. 2 awesome stories. And they both have a common theme of someone who they were sitting right there on a passion that could be monetized. It was right there. And all they needed to do was step into the arena, step into the middle of the ring. And it worked. And I'll talk about Jordan. Jordan was on here last week. Jordan he's been on 2 episodes of the Inner Wealth podcast. If you've listened for a long period of time, you've heard him. He's been on, I think, episode 18 and episode 248 last week. And Jordan was a teacher. He was tired of teaching. He was a tenured teacher, and he was finished with that. And he wanted to embark on an entrepreneurial journey. It's like his soul was craving the entrepreneurial journey. And he left his teaching gig. He bought a franchise, and he just needed some help. And he needed a guide, a mentor. He needed somebody to work with. Jordan didn't have a whole lot of trust and confidence in himself, and he just needed to work with somebody who did have some trust and confidence in him, and just like kind of like borrow their trust and confidence until he had his own. And for a couple of years, Jordan and I worked together. He joined my mastermind, but little by little, we got clear about, well, first of all, the first order of business was helping him get clear what he wanted in his life. And now he lives in Colorado, and that was part of his vision. But he knew he wanted territories within his business, and he wanted managers in his business, and so that he wasn't running day-to-day operations. And he wanted to move from St. Louis to Colorado and spend more time in the mountains. And now, not only is he living that dream, he's launching another business, and that's why he was on the podcast last week. But he kind of knew where he wanted to go. He wasn't super clear with it. He just knew he wanted more out of life, and he just wanted to get into alignment with his design and his purpose and his talents and skills. And the role I played in his life was helping him get clear and then helping him start removing the blocks, the mental and emotional blocks that he was carrying around, that he was holding within himself. And it worked. And here it is years later, and Jordan has time and financial freedom and is launching another business. These are, I guess, typical stories. You could say that there's, I can count on multiple hands how many times this has worked when I've made it simple for me and our business. Find someone who knows they want more. Find an entrepreneur who wants more out of life and wants more out of their business, and also doesn't want to sacrifice themselves and punish themselves through the process. And when I understand their blocks and help them eliminate the blocks in their life, and they take action, I'm not going to take action for them. I'm not going to be the builder of their business. They have to do that. But the role I play is to help them remove the blocks. And recently, when the team and I got together, I started talking about the mission and the problem that we solve to help entrepreneurs expand their life and their circumstances, their life and their business, and in alignment with who they are, and in a way that doesn't cause them to sacrifice themselves or punish themselves. When we realized that, we started asking another question. Hey, what are the main blocks that some of these entrepreneurs have presented? Some of the things that we worked through. And we came up with five primary blocks that they face. And I'm not saying these are the only ones. I'm just saying these are the ones that we've recognized have caused entrepreneurs to not, or either people that wanted to be an entrepreneur from stepping in the ring, or entrepreneurs who wanted more out of their life, more out of their business, who wanted more in their circumstances. It blocked them from stepping into those higher level circumstances and more life. And today I'm going to tell you about those 5 blocks, because once you see these, and hopefully, maybe the goal of this isn't just to educate you, but it's to help you see yourself in these blocks or these blocks in you, and for us to start to work through them. Because listen, whoever you are, most likely I don't know you. I'd love to know you, but most likely I don't know you. But I'll tell you what, I want more for you, because I want more for myself, and I want more for everyone I come in contact with. And when I work with somebody and they win, it feels like I win even more than they do. So I thrive on seeing people's life and circumstances and their business increase in a way that it doesn't cause them to sacrifice themselves or punish themselves. But the number one block by far that I've seen in people's lives, whether they are entrepreneurs or not, is they don't know what they want. They're not clear on what they want. And if you don't know what you want, you can't have them. And it's very apparent. There's times where I'll ask somebody, what do you really want in life? And they'll say, I don't know. And sometimes they're dealing so often, and they're like in this hand-to-hand combat situation with life, is they don't take time to dream, and they don't take time to pause and to reflect. And they just settle for what life is bringing at them, or what's coming at them. and they never take time to set a different intention for something that's more purposeful, more valuable, more intentional, more fulfilling. And when we start the process, and that's what I did with Melanie and Corey and Jordan, and when we take time to really start to dream, and on paper with Jordan, I had him write out, what do you want in your health? What do you want in your wealth? What do you want in your career and your business and your success and the impact that you make? What do you want in these areas of life? When all these guys, Melanie, Corey, and Jordan, and I'll talk about Matt and Enzo, and I got a litany of them. But when I helped them get really clear about what they wanted in their life, now we had a target. And without a target, we can't hit it. All right. Number one block by far that I see people face is that they don't know what they want. And the first step is to help them get clarity and stop just settling for whatever they're dealing with and all the problems and challenges and obstacles that probably aren't in alignment with their design, their purpose, and their destiny. But now we can set on a course and an adventure of removing the blocks and taking action in alignment with these things. And that's what opens up a life that is expansive, but yet not full of self-sacrifice and punishment. All right. Number one block by far is clarity. All right. Number two, and if you listen to the story that I just told you about Jordan, when we got clear about what he wanted in his life, his first question, he read it to me, and he said, Mike, is that even possible? The number two block, and this is a pressing block, and I remember this one. Angie and I did some vision work for our life. We're flying out to Cancun this week, and when you listen to this, when this podcast episode drops, we'll be in Cancun. And the life that we envisioned years and years ago, back in 2017, was to integrate travel and business. And I had already launched InnerWealth Global. And we wanted to serve our business and impact the world, but we also wanted to travel, and we never wanted to turn off the business and on life, or vice versa. And when we travel, we still operate our business, but we dreamed about that in 2017. And I know my thought when I had my vision on paper, I was like, is this even possible? Can I possibly do this? Is this realistic? Put a pin in that word. But that was Jordan's first question. Is this possible, Mike? He wanted to live in the mountains. He wanted to move. He was currently living in St. Louis. He had one territory, and he was basically the owner operator in the business. He didn't have a manager. He's like, is this even possible? It seems so far away. I said, no, man, it's not possible. It's probable. Let's get after it. Just keep your clarity in mind. Just keep your eyes on the target and keep taking the next inspired step towards it. And in our discussions, we just kept loosening and lessening the blocks that he was experiencing. But if the biggest block is not knowing what you want, the second biggest block is not believing that it's possible. And as we work through that, everything becomes possible, because this is a world, this is a universe of infinite possibilities. And the third block, and I've dealt with this one as well, because I wrote a book called The Imposter in Charge, and it was all about this. It's someone who doesn't believe in themselves, someone who doesn't trust themselves. They feel defective, they feel flawed, they feel broken, they feel inadequate, they feel like they're not talented enough. Not that they don't know what they want, they do know what they want. They believe that it's possible because they see it that it's possible, but it's that they can't have it because there's something wrong with them. The number three block is lack of belief and lack of trust. And if you remember when I was telling you about Jordan, he said, Mike, I don't have any confidence. I don't have any trust in myself. That's what he was saying without saying it. And in a sense, Corey did the same thing. Mike, can I really build this business? I mean, there are professional photographers everywhere. So Corey, the proof was in the pudding. The model was there, but Corey didn't believe that he was adequate enough to do it until we started removing the blocks. All right. And as we started removing the blocks, the mental and emotional hurdles, the mental and emotional clutter, then his dream unfolded. Now he's one of the most successful photographers in the St. Louis metro area. So first block is lack of clarity. Second block is a lack of belief that that's possible. And three is feeling like you can't be the person who receives that. There's something wrong with you, or you don't trust yourself to actually be able to build it. Number four, and this is where it really starts for me. This is really the work that starts to get really, really fun. And I enjoy this. Okay. Now, I'm a Marine vet. I am I skydived one time a couple years ago. My wife, for my birthday week, we went out to California and we skydived, and it was awesome. And I started a business. Now, the commonality of all three of those is your body does not want to do those. My body didn't want to go to Marine Corps boot camp. And the closer the bus got to the receiving depot at Parris Island, South Carolina, it was okay. You know, a year before I shipped for boot camp, my body was fine. But as you start to near, you get on a plane, and then you get off the plane and you get on a bus, and the bus starts to arrive at the depot. Your body is quivering, and there's so much fear because for the next 3 months, it's going to be nothing but freaking torment. But your body doesn't want to do it. Your body fights. Same thing with skydiving. Like when we made the decision to skydive, everything was awesome. And when I was on the ground and we were being trained, everything was awesome. But man, when we got in that plane and started going up the elevation ladder, the higher we got, the more my body started to shake and quiver. And when I got to the door, it was like I had an instructor, you know, it was a tandem jump. And as I'm walking towards the freaking window, it's like I got to grab my legs and I've got to grab my knees, and my legs won't work. And they're dead weight. They feel like sandbags. And I actually have to make them move. My body was in such paralysis, and my body felt there was so much danger. It started the process of shutting down. And as I moved towards that window, my body was quaking and shivering and fearful, and the anxiety was high like never ever before. Not even Marine Corps boot camp could match that fear, because my body literally was in survival mode, saying there's danger, we are going to die. And the reason being is because your body, your nervous system, has one goal and one goal only, and that's to keep you alive. It keeps you alive by trying to keep you in familiar circumstances. And it tries to keep you in familiar circumstances because it knows how to keep you alive there. And all my nervous system, all my body was trying to get me to do in that moment was back the fuck up and stay on the plane and sit back down, because it knew how to keep me alive there. But jumping out of an airplane, my body did not know how to keep me alive there. My nervous system did not know how to keep me alive there. And starting a business. Oh, and then 20 seconds later, after I jumped, it was the most exhilarating feeling ever. So it was totally a false flag. But your body, that's your body's response to new and unfamiliar and unpredictable circumstances, is it fights and tries to keep you step back into something more familiar. And when I went from 20 plus years in a corporate gig and ascending the ladder of success, and I'm air quoting success, and I hated my jobs. But when I made the transition into entrepreneurship, and I was terminated twice, once in 2014, once in 2016, because everything was so out of whack and out of balance, and I was so out of alignment with my design, my purpose, and my destiny. When the universe kind of like flicked me like a mosquito out of corporate, and I was going to start an entrepreneurial journey, my body didn't like it. My body just wanted a job, because my body was familiar and it felt it could keep me alive in not an entrepreneurial job, a corporate job. If I said entrepreneurial job, that was a Freudian slip, but it was an employment, a corporate job. My body wanted me to go and find another W-2 job, working for somebody else, because it knew how to operate there. My body did not want me to start my business. And there was anxiety and fear and uncertainty and doubt, because our bodies are not often our allies in the journey of expansion. And in order for our life and our circumstances, in order for our business to expand, we have to walk into and through discomfort. And if you listen to the episode when we came home from Nashville, Tennessee, I talked about the work that I did with the Speedo. My body did not want to be up in front of everybody with the Speedo. All right. And that was an entertaining episode a couple episodes ago. But when we came home, I mean, when I was standing in front of my student body, and I told him all the body shame I was holding that I've always held, and my body was like shaking because I didn't want to be seen. My body doesn't like to be seen. My nervous system doesn't like for my body to be seen. But when I took off all my clothes and I was standing there in front of a Speedo, I got emotional. I almost had tears coming out of my eyes because my body was trying to fight the embarrassment. And the more I stood there, the more I got comfortable, because the journey to expansion in our life, in our circumstances, in our business is to go into and through the discomfort and expand the comfort zone of the nervous system, not rest within it, not hide within it. The number 4 block that I experience is every time things get uncomfortable, people back up. When things begin to expand, or right before they expand, in order to get the expansion, to initiate the expansion, to activate the expansion, we got to walk into and through discomfort. And most people, when their body starts to get uncomfortable, they back up. And this is why I'm a Marine vet. This is why I've jumped out of an airplane. And this is why I'm an entrepreneur, because I don't let my body and my anxiety and my fear call the shots. I recognize what they're telling me, and I drill into these emotions, drop into the body, recognize what I'm feeling, inquire and investigate. What are they trying to tell me? Why are they there? What are they coming from? What are the stories underneath of them? Listen to what they have to tell me, what they're trying to say, and let them go and move into and through the discomfort. But if you can't handle your body being uncomfortable, then you're going to stay stuck, and your circumstances and your life is going to stay small. So the number 1 block is not knowing what it is you want. Number 2 is not believing you can have it. Number 3 is not believing in yourself. Number 4 is not being able to move forward when things get uncomfortable. And growth requires discomfort. And the number 5 block, and when I realized this, and this has been prevalent in my life, and when I realized it, it just didn't make any sense how this could be possible. And when I saw it in my life, I started seeing it in other people's lives. There's people, including me to some degree, that struggle to receive what it is we want. It's like it comes with some sense of guilt and shame. Like I can't possibly have what I want. And I was at a workshop one time, and there was a gal right in front of me in the front row. And I could see that she had some receiving issues. And I started to compliment her. And I started to talk about her talents. And I started to talk about the gifts and what I saw in her. And you could see her face turn red and the embarrassment. And she started shrinking. And it was almost like she was trying to get me to stop complimenting her because she wasn't a good receiver. She was a great action taker, and helper. She would help anybody, but receiving help, asking for help, seeking out support, allowing what you want to come into your life easily without having to prove it or earn it or sacrifice or punish yourself for it. To allow goodness into your life without self-sacrifice, self-punishment, without working ourselves to death. Sometimes this is difficult. And the old adage, it's better to give than receive, that's bullshit. That adage came from someone who struggled to receive. So they glorified giving. And it took the guilt and shame off not being able to receive. So they said, hey, let's just focus on giving because it's easier. And I'm saying, when you are an easy giver, but you struggle to receive, your life is always going to be out of balance. And you're always going to be watching people blast past you in their life and their circumstances. And you're going to work harder and harder and do more sacrificial things and do more punishing things. And your life is still not going to expand because you're not a good receiver. And it's never a good enough time to receive. You've never done enough. You've never sacrificed. You've never punished yourself enough to receive. If you can't simply receive a compliment, if you simply can't ask for help, if you can't simply receive help, if you can't simply let somebody help you for no reason, if you can't simply allow somebody to give you something for no reason, then you've got a receiving block, and we've got to work on that. And it's more prevalent in society than you think. So guys, those are the 5 main blocks that I've seen. And my work in Inner Wealth Global is to help entrepreneurs. Our work in the mastermind, in my private coaching, in my speaking engagements. My job, what I feel, my mission, is to help you expand your life and your circumstances, your business in aligned ways that don't create self-sacrifice and self-punishment. But one or more of those 5 blocks are probably in the way. You don't know what you want. You don't believe you can have what you want. You don't believe and trust in yourself. You struggle to move into and through discomfort and struggle to receive. One or more of those 5 blocks are probably prevalent. I want you to go and reflect on those, and I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at mike@innerwealthglobal.com. I'd love to hear from you and which of those blocks are present. You can also, there's a text me or message me and the thing in the show notes. Go and hit that. Send me a message. Let me hear from you. Let's engage. I want to hear what your block is, and I'm start the process of working through it with you. And I've got probably a workshop coming up. I'm tentatively planning a workshop for the 2nd week in July, and we're going to do this work. I'm going to work with some entrepreneurs that want more from their life and from their circumstances, more in their life and their circumstances. Identify those 5 blocks and start to work through them actively in that workshop. We're going to start changing. We're going to keep changing some lives, just like the lives of Melanie, Corey, and Jordan, and so many other entrepreneurs that I've worked with. All right. The work works. Love you guys. Thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging in there. Thanks for your loyal listenership. And we are 1 away from episode 250. And it'll be when we get back from Cancun. Love you guys. Talk then.